Welcome to episode 4 of the Everyday Woman series. Today, we're going to be interviewing another one of my cousins. And yes, I know y'all are sick of me and my cousins, but seriously, I feel like they're just all genuinely doing well and have stories to share. And this is what I'm here for. I'm here to share those stories, share experiences with them and with you so you can feel like you can achieve your goals and your dreams and just be a better person. So today's interview is with my cousin, Candace Maxwell, who is an actress, and you might actually know her. She's been on a few popular shows, and she's really just a ball of sunshine. Today's interview, we're talking about her journey into acting, but then also just how she has maintained her level of self and authenticity in a world, in an industry that might challenge her to push herself out of being that. And today's conversation is just truly about how to maintain being authentically you and being successful in being authentically you, and how it's so achievable. So yeah, let's get into it. So we are here with my cousin, Candace Maxwell, and we will be interviewing her today. I wanted you to come on here because I think you're like a ball of sunshine and energy. And I say this all the time. I think when I texted you, I was like, you're such a ball of sunshine.
Thank you.
Which you are. But I think you have a lot to tell the people, but I think you also just have a lot to share from your experiences. And you're just a great person. So thank you for coming on.
Thank you, Taylor. You're great too.
Thank you. Okay, so I have to tell the story because obviously I've been interviewing all my cousins, and I think the people are going to get sick of me and be like, how many cousins do y'all have? So it's a huge family, and it's a funny story. So I'm not going to tell the full story. One day I'll do that. But let's just say our grandfather was a Rolling Stone. So we have a lot of cousins, and a lot of my female woman cousins I've met have been later on in life because I grew up with a lot of the boys. I grew up with like my other cousin Brittany, who I love so much. But me and her were really close, but I didn't really get to meet a lot of my other cousins until I got older. Yeah. So we met about like how many years ago now?
Oh gosh. I feel like over 10. Don't you think over 10?
Maybe once we met over 10, but remember
like over 10 years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me see.
Because then the first real meetup we had was when we went out in Harlem.
Yeah. But your mom, like I met your mom before.
Right.
But fair enough. Like actually hanging out with you.
Yes.
But I feel, was that 10 years?
No, girl. That was like
less.
That was like 5 years ago.
Is it 5?
Yeah.
No. Then if that's so, life has really moved so fast.
Yeah, no.
Which is crazy if that was 5 years ago.
Well, I was living here. So yes, it had to be like my first or second year. And this is going into my 6th year living here.
So it was definitely then. It was definitely recent.
Yeah. So we linked up with a few of our cousins who were in the area. We went to a nice little restaurant in Harlem, and
I'll never forget that.
We had a time. Okay, we turned up. We had a time, and it was just nice because even when we sat at the table, I realized like how much similarities we had in just the instance of us sitting there. Yeah. Like you and Brittany, I felt like we're kind of in sync. Me and Simone had known each other for a while too, but I just feel like we were all Simone, who you guys also met on my last episode. But I feel like you guys were all just kind of like this, not the same, but we do have definitely relations that make sense.
Yeah, I think I agree. I see resemblance. I feel like it's like a spiritual thing. Do you know what I mean? Like when I say spiritual thing, like you can tell when people are of kin, because of like maybe they have different point of views and they were raised differently, but like there's like something like synonymous in the energy, and that's like real and genuine. So that I agree with for sure. Yeah.
And I think we were just talking about this. I think we've built a pretty good relationship over the last 5 years. I think we got a little cute thing going on.
I do too.
And that's because like you said, things are genuine and they have to unfold the way that they unfold. Mm-hmm. And like I said, I just like your personality. You're great. You are a great person.
Thanks, Taylor. You're making me blush. No,
I'm gonna keep hyping her up the entire time.
Stop. I love Taylor. Taylor, you're literally just like classy. Like, you're like the girl's girl. Do you know what I mean? She's a real girl's girl. But also, like, you're a people person. She's like a people person. That was funny because the event planning, it makes sense. You love people. You love events. You like community. I feel like you two have a lot of energy to give. And you give a lot. And I think that's why you're always so happy. Is because you're not afraid to give.
Oh, that's so nice. I mean, that's like the one thing that I grew up on, and my mom and my grandma always said is like, I give so that like the generation after me will be given a lot. So like, and I feel like I've been blessed to have my great grandmother, my mom, and now me continue to give in some sort of way. And it doesn't have to be like, I think people think giving has to be monetary. It's not. It's not monetary.
It's not.
It's pouring into people. In a way that makes them feel, and you want them to feel like successful or supported. And I feel like a lot of people feel like, oh, you don't support me because you don't do this and you don't do that. And I'm like, no, I support you because I want you to be genuine. I want you to do well. You know?
Yeah. Agree. A giving spirit. That's one thing. See, we have that in common.
Yes.
Yeah. Guess what? I learned that from my mom. You learned that from your mom.
Because they
and then Simone's dad, I feel like it's the same way.
Yes.
So I think that's where I go. It's like a spiritual thing. It's kind of like just in like the family DNA and the makeup, and I do believe in that. So,
No, agreed. All right, so let's get into why we're here. Okay. So I wanted to talk to you about, like, you are an actress. You have been on a lot of recent shows lately. I've been watching you, girl.
Thank you.
Snaps. But I just wanted to talk to you more about like how you got into acting. You were also a dancer, also still are a dancer. I think you would consider yourself. So just like give us the tea.
Okay, that's a very large
question. Okay, so start with what made you want to start acting?
Okay,
start there.
It's for me. It's like a childhood thing. It goes immediately back to childhood. But in a way where I don't know if I chose it, it chose me. I think the best things in life choose you.
Yeah.
So it was like really organic, really natural. I always grew up like watching TV, watching movies, watching shows, imitating them, and just kind of, I always lived in a very imaginative world because I was an only child for like a good 7 years of my life. Just me, my mom, my dad. My grandma lived with us and my aunt lived with us.
Oh, nice.
In Queens. And I had a pink bedroom. I'll never forget it. But that was like my little world. And I would like go in my closet. I had this little dark closet. And I would always go in there and just like be in my own world and with my dolls and like creating things and scenarios and stories.
Yeah.
I think that always like just kept me really alive. And I always loved music. So I feel like I weirdly enough, whether my parents realized it or not, they created a very safe, nurturing space for me to be creative. There was always music playing. I could always sing. I could always dance. I could leap on couches. I could just do things, you know? And art was like brought into my life through a family friend who was an agent. She lived down the street from me. I used to play with her daughter. And she was like, said to my mom, like, oh, you know, Candace is pretty. Candace has a look. Why don't you, you know, and she likes the camera. Why don't you try to put her in acting or modeling? So I kind of fell in it through that. And my mom was like, okay, let's see how she likes it. So my mom would take me into auditions, like after school. Like I remember like just driving the car to the subway, getting on the subway, riding into the city like a little kid, just like doing my thing, you know, like a little New York City rat. Like a New York City rats, you know, but like a little New York City rat, just going to auditions as a kid. And, you know, as a kid being in front of these lights, I'm walking into the room, seeing the casting director sitting in the waiting room. So I got to experience that really young. And I got to experience rejection really young. I mean, like for years I would audition. I was like, no. It felt like years. I don't know how long. And then all of a sudden one day I started booking jobs and I was like, oh, cool. And I was like, oh, I really do like this. There was a lot of shyness that I had to get over and being intimidated by being seen by people. I'd always go this to my mom. But once I got comfortable in front of the camera, then it was just like second nature almost. And then I would say dance was always a big part of my life. I started dancing when I was 5 at the YMCA. So I always loved dance, and I was not in like a, I just like got it. Like I just got it. Like they were like this, and I was like, oh, that makes sense. And like there would be the kids who were like behind, and I was like, why don't you get the steps? So I've always had rhythm. I've always been musical, and I just like creativity and beautiful things. Honestly, I'm just inspired by like, and I just try to live a life that's like, so that's kind of how it chose me. Art chose me. And I think the beauty in life is like leaning into one, what chooses you, but also like embracing your natural gifts. And I just, again, I think I give my mother all the respect, and my dad, for both of them recognizing young what was special about me and going like, oh, we're going to embrace that about you, even though we don't know anything about this. We're both foreigners. They embraced me as I was, and they embraced like my quirks and my charms. And I think that's why I feel like there's like this authenticity, and I think it starts with them.
One thing I like that you said is that your parents gave you the environment to really be that person. And I feel like there is a lot of people don't realize how important that is, and don't always have that fortunate, situation. And I feel like my parents as well gave me the space to like breathe and be creative in whatever way I wanted to. And I was in like a crap ton of sports. Like I did like ballet, I did horseback riding, I did soccer. I was like, they made me try basically everything so that I could decide like what I wanted. I was a swimmer. I eventually stuck with swimming and ballet, and then ballet got cut when they started to ask me to do homework. I went to Alvin Ailey, loved it. It's a great school, but they started to ask me to do homework, and I was like, can't do it.
They were giving you homework at Ailey?
When I was I had to be like maybe 10 or 11, and I had a tutor. I just wasn't like I don't think I was doing well, and I don't think that like I was feeling my best self then either. And I was just like, we're just gonna go swim, and that's what we did. And I ended up like pursuing my career in swimming, which actually was really great for my body and my health. But I love the fact that like our parents really put that space for us to really like just be ourselves. And for people who haven't had that opportunity, a lot of them find themselves like adventuring out and figuring out those things later on in life, which is not as fortunate, but it is a different time schedule, and that's also okay. It's never too late to try something that you want to try. That could be a whole other thing.
Never. I'm going to say that too. Never. But I'm going to say that too, because I feel like even now, like you can say my title now, which is what you're saying. You're like, you're Candace, you're an actress, you're a dancer, you're this. But there's so much more to me that even I'm discovering now. So I think it really starts with the mind, like not being afraid to constantly explore yourself. I think, and we live in a world where we get these titles or ideas about who we are, and people are so gung-ho on that. And I think that's why I even took a lot of words out of like my bio, like artist, actor, dancer, because like, who am I to say that I'm not a great clothing designer or, a great teacher or a great, like entrepreneur, whatever it is that I decide to pursue next, you know, because I look at life, everything just like an exploration of art. You as an event planner is an artist. You're creating these installations and colors, and you're bringing feeling and emotion to life, and you're using music. It's storytelling. So when you choose to reframe how you look at your life, and I look at my life like a piece of art, how I dress today is representative of how I felt this morning, maybe how I slept last night, what I want to convey today. Everything I do is art. And I just changed that about my thinking in the last couple of years, and really in the last couple of months deeply. And again, it's just changed. It says everything about you says so much about you. And we realize we've got all these context clues around. And so I just feel inspired by life too, and also I'm dark, but like death too. It's inspiring because it changes you, and your appreciation for the world and for people and things, you know. So that so dark.
No, it's not dark, but you're right. I mean, like, listen, I could unpack a whole lot of stuff there, but I think that like the way that your outlook, you said it changed a few years ago. Do you feel like that change in outlook is what has pushed you to this point of where you are right now, where you said you feel like things are kind of like picking up with your career. Do you feel like that was kind of like the shifting point that made you look at things a little differently? Because I do feel like in that case, if you look at your life like an art piece, it can open you up to so many different things.
I would say it all kind of, I had like a midlife crisis, quarter life. I was crisis. Like 25 and I was like, oh my God, what am I doing? You know, because that's when and this may be out of sequence and you can tell me too.
Don't care.
But 25 was when I had a dance career before then. So I was dancing, and I had gotten to a point with dance in the industry where I felt like it wasn't a nice industry at all.
Yeah.
The closer I got to the top, you find a lot of these inflated egos at the top, like in this dance career. I'm like, really, we're just like creating dance installations where we don't get paid that
You're
much
like,
money.
I'm just here for the joy and we're having a great time.
Yeah, and it just became like really toxic. Also, it's very hard on your body, physically, mentally, emotionally. It's all about like, how do you look? Everything became about, and like leaving like a dance world like ballet and modern and stepping into like dancing for artists. Everything was like hypersexualized, and I feel like you just become this like set piece almost. Yeah. And I was like, well, I have a lot more to say than that, and I'm not a set piece. Yeah. Like I'm a creative. It just became the bottom line, money, all this stuff. So I left that world and I like went to this acting school, and when I went to that school, it really changed me, because they made us slow down deeply, strip away all of the bullshit, like the masks that we wear, the things that we wear to protect and cover ourselves. And I really had to be like intimate with these strangers who, weirdly enough, in those 2 years became my family. Yeah. And we had to like work through all of our emotions and all of our traumas and feelings in a very safe, controlled environment. Yeah. Where like you can scream, but you can't hit them. You can't, but you could get it all out. Yeah. And I think it was like a really safe place for me because I had all of this, being an artist from a kid and having that space was very internalized. So I think I held a lot in. It was a lot of like, yeah, you can do, but when it's time for you to speak up, actually, we don't want to hear you. Yeah. That was like a lot of my household growing up was like, but we don't really want to hear your opinion. Yeah. And in school, it was like, but we don't really. So I think my life has been a lot of silencing of my voice. And then when I went to that school, it started to change me. Yeah. And I think it's a continuous growth of like my voice and what do I want to say, and it deserves to be heard. Yeah. I think you're right. Yeah. Also, you just reminded me, we did meet 10 years ago because the first time I had seen you and we hadn't met. Okay. I think I met you right after that show was at your dance performance was it at a game or? And also you had a performance on Broadway and I also was there. That's what I'm saying. But it was always very vague. Yes. I don't remember which dance show you came to. I think it was just one of your games. Like was it a Knicks? Yeah, it was a Knicks game. See, I was a Knicks dancer. Yeah, she was a Knicks dancer, and I remember going there. And then I also remember I met you very briefly after one of your shows. Yeah, and that was Holler If You Hear Me. Yes. Yeah, and that was cool because I got to be. That was when when the transition from dancing to acting, like taking it seriously, happened. Again, and now that I'm older, I don't separate the two because dancing is just telling a story with the music through your body, through visual, etc. Same way acting is. Now you're just putting it on words, but it's just emotion on words. Yeah. And now I'm learning that singing is literally just emotion, story on words. Yeah. So it's like really interesting when you take down these words that we put on things. Mm-hmm. Like you're a mother, so you're not. I'm like the Keke Palmer thing. Remember, you're a mother. You're a mother. I'm like, yeah, she is a mother, but she's also like a full-bodied human being. Yeah. She's sexual. She's happy, she's sad, she has rage, she's a businesswoman, she's an empire, she's a child, like she's all of these things and a mother. So it's like my therapist and like people I've worked with, they always say like yes and. because we negate this. Yes, and like this person's a beautiful soul, and they will fuck you up. Yes, and
This is very interesting because I really have never looked at life like this, and now you kind of have me thinking about like my event life and my event career. And I had always been creative as a kid. So my grandmother was a seamstress. I don't know if you knew that. She went to FIT. Badass. She had her own like clothing company. That's how she made her life. Yeah, she's so cute. Like she's the cutest lady, and she is sharp and strong. Like she's out here doing everything all the time. But anyway, she kind of pushed me. So she lived with us growing up. So she's the person who pushed me to be like really creative. So she used to sew at home. She also used to cook a lot, and she would like invite me to come cook with her because I would just sit there and watch her on Sunday mornings. That was like our thing. Sunday mornings I would cook with her. And then she taught me how to sew, and just like this creative, like I call her like my creative fortress. She's just like a woman who has been so she could literally turn anything into anything. Like right now, she's 83 years old. I could give her a vision of what I want in an outfit, and she'll be like, got it in like 3 days. And she'll make it. It is a dream.
That's
but
a grandma.
She's just so versatile as a person. And that's when I started like baking as a kid. And then I started like my little baking business.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I
know. I'm saying.
And that became like an adult thing. Yeah. I had a little baking business. It was called the Greta Cake. It still is called the Greta Cake. I just don't use it as often. But it was a phase of mine where my great grandaunt had given my grandmother a recipe to her black cake recipe. Yep. And when she had Alzheimer's and she knew that her mind was going, she gave it to my grandma, and she told her to give it to me when I turned 14. And unfortunately, she passed. And then my grandmother gave it to me at 14. And that's how I started the Greta Cake at 14 years old. And it turned into a real business, maybe like, I think I LLC'd it officially when I was like 22. Yeah. And then it was like all throughout the pandemic, it was like really doing well. Yeah. Then after that, I just felt like it was a lot of work for something that I didn't really feel as passionate about anymore. Mm-hmm. I feel like it served a purpose as something in my life that was like a place where I could express myself, really feel at home, feel like something was holistically mine. Mm-hmm. And then at the time that I felt like it was okay to transition, and also transitioning was hard because I was like, this is something that's been a part of my life for so long. Mm-hmm. Like my mom was a part of it. My grandmother's a part of it. Like my family has been pushing me to do it. And then I'm like, they're like, are you sure you want to just drop this? And I'm like, I just don't think it's serving me anymore. And I think we often try to put ourselves in the box. Like, and when I go back to how I was thinking about event planning and event producer, yes, I'm an event producer and I'm an event planner, but that's not who I am as a whole person. Yeah. And I think I have a lot of creative aspects to myself that, you know, I just pop up and do random things like this. And like creativity is something that eases out, and I get really bored really easily. So I need to be switching up things. So event producing is something that I'm passionate about, but it's not all of who I am. Of course. So I like that. I like the fact that you look at your life as an art piece. Yeah. And the places and the spots just kind of fill in as they go. They change.
And also like, because people, the success, people are like someone was like, when you get where you're going, I was like, bro,
where are we going?
I don't know where I'm going. Like I'm putting one foot in front of, that you can have a vision and a plan for your life, which who doesn't want to be? I believe from day one, my dad and my mom put that in my head. Like, you know, you have a vision in your mind, but like life, you are not in charge. Yeah. You are not in charge, period. Yes. And also when you understand that, it changes you too. You're like, oh, I'm not in charge.
We're just here.
What am I like fighting for? like lay back like a little bit more. Like there's a lot more panther in my gait, which is like, it's like, you know how to like lean back into life a little bit. Because I also see with like an ambitious, overzealous like society is like, oh, but what are you doing next? I'm like, what are your accolades? And I'm like,
you're like, please chill. We are all gonna be okay. Yeah. And you're gonna be okay.
Yeah. And that like you really are, you know, like it is gonna be okay. Like that's been like I it's so cliche. We're Jamaican. But I love like Bob Marley because he literally saying, don't worry about a thing. Yeah. Because every little thing is gonna be all right. If you literally remind yourself that you're like, yeah, like I have 2 feet, I have 2 hands, my brain works. Like
Yeah.
What are we worried about?
Because we can get caught up in the chaos. Like, I'll never forget, I was working a really stressful job, and I was like, what would happen if I just didn't show up tomorrow?
Is everybody gonna die?
Is everything gonna die? Is everything, and I would imagine like what my mental state would be like if I wasn't there.
Yeah.
And that's how I knew I had to leave. And I was just like, I like it better over there, where this is gonna be, rather than over here. But I think often, like, when we are living in a world where you open up social media and it's like, make 10 million on doing this, make 30 million on doing this, become an influencer by doing this, it is just like so much pressure to live in this like constant cycle of like, I need to be better, I need to be better, I need to be better. There's no problem with wanting to be better, but I think you need to give yourself grace, and I think you need to like just be easier and kinder on yourself, because I think success comes with hard work, but it also comes easier when it's natural.
Yeah.
And I think, looping back to now your acting career.
I know this. You're gonna have to cut and paste.
This is great. Becoming... I love this conversation. I love it. I love it. It's gonna be great. I think for you and your acting and all the dancing and things that you've done, you have been so authentic. I just feel like you bring forward, and even in this interview, like, you are very much yourself. I just feel like this is you. This is the you I know. This is the you I've met, and you're never not this person.
Thank you. Oh, there's also a lot I will fuck you up.
There is, but that's a part of your personality, and that's okay.
And also, like, there's no way I would have survived in the world, in this business, if there wasn't a don't play with me. There is no way. There's no way. Like, men get to do it all the time. That's another thing. Don't get me started. Patriarchy needs to be dismantled. And I never thought I would be this person, but I'm like, you guys are animals. And you need to learn to dismantle the ego.
They do.
Dismantle.
They do.
But authenticity. Go back.
No, I was saying that, like, I feel like you are very authentic in the work that you do. So my question being, my question is, when you are in a world where you just talked about the patriarchy, the men, the places of people will try to conform you in an industry that may not want you to be as authentic and be yourself. How have you like maintained your authenticity? Like, what are the reminders that you have to tell yourself? What are the things that are like, I have to stay true to Candace?
Okay.
Yeah.
Those things. Ooh, those are very strong things. I think the biggest one is knowing where I'm from.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people don't have that, but for me, I have that. Like, I know who my mother is. I know where she's from, and I know her story and her sacrifices. She, in a way, keeps me really grounded. My relationship with God, like, it was since I was born, like, you know, like, I have grandmothers who pray and they believe in prayer, and they believe in living your life a certain way. It's not about perfection.
Yeah.
I think that's where people get it all confused, is about like perfection and judgment. It's about like love and acceptance. And that's what I get from God, is like love and acceptance and grace. It's not hate. It's the opposite of that. It's love. So like rooting myself in love. And I think why I say God too, I know why I say God, is because it's about humility. I think a lot of people get success, or they get things that it feels good. It's like an endorphin rush, but they forget that yes, your hard work, but remember, you're not in charge. So God, my mother, knowing where I'm from, the love of what I do. And like, I always like try to, like, my friend and I, my girlfriend, she lives in LA. Her name's Shannon. We went to acting school together. And what I love about is that we're so different on the outside, but when you're like, oh, like a lot of similar things. We're like very, very in tune. She's like, has a sensitivity that I don't see a lot in the world, that I love, that I am like, and I only almost get to be that way with this person. But we want to like start like directing plays with little kids. Nice. And I found a community theater that I want to work with out there. Yeah. And I just something that has nothing to do with me or my ego or my acting or money. I just want to go and like direct these beautiful young minds. So I think, again, what keeps me authentic and grounded is like, why did I start this? you know, keeping like God and like just the principles of like love in my life, my family, those things.
Yeah.
They keep me so like full and rich and grounded in truth. And like I also think being in New York City, walking around, looking at people, because you can get in LA and everything's like, I'm in my fancy car, I'm in my fancy house, and people just so everybody's like, look at me, this is what I got, I'm so cool. But like when you come to New York and you ride the subway, you see people, you're like, oh, this is like real life, and I'm so blessed.
Yeah,
I'm blessed, Taylor. I get to go to work. Somebody puts makeup on me.
Yes.
They make me look pretty. They put me in clothes. I get to play pretend for a living. That is a dream come true. If you're going to be a jerk and that's what you get to do, like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
No,
and being
seriously.
authentic in a world that doesn't want you to be authentic. I mean, like, I think that's what the world is starving for is authenticity. When I scroll and I look and everybody's posting the same TikTok, I'm like, and this ain't Texas. Like I can't, like, I love you, B, but I'm like, for real?
Yeah.
Like, so it's almost like people have lost, it's like a homogenized, we're just like churning out the wheel. So I'm excited for what's next. I do feel like we're on a precipice right now with social media and creativity where people are just like tired of seeing the same thing, or they want like simple and authentic. So I'm excited.
Yeah.
I think I'm excited. I think authentic is almost a rebellion.
Yeah.
And that's kind of cool. I'm like, okay.
I think there's also, now that you said that, there is like, you keep saying like, you know, people are churning out like the same types of content, the same types of work, doing the same type of thing. I go on TikTok, it's the same 65 same TikToks. But also like, I think it's interesting because it was a world like corporate patriarchy, all those things, like the hamster wheel that we always talk about, that people live on, the corporate hamster wheel. It's like people are trying to get away from that.
Yes.
But then sometimes they end up in social media in a place where they are trying so hard to get more followers and be more famous and have a title that they lose that authenticity, and then they're back on another hamster wheel.
Yes.
And
exactly.
I feel like I'm new here to the social media world. I'm new to YouTube. This is like new for me. So this is all just like experimenting and seeing what I like and what I want.
Yes.
But I couldn't imagine how tiring it would be to just like churn out things based on what you see in other people. And it's one thing to be inspired and one thing to just like do the same thing for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
So I think that's like an interesting take, because I never really put the connection there. But when you said that, it like made me think, as someone who's worked in both corporate, worked in like event management and like a more creative field, and is now like kind of delving into this world, there are definitely some relations across, if you look at that, in terms of hamster wheel. You said
hamster wheel to hamster wheel. That's real.
No, it's real.
And like, again, nothing against, it's exciting. Like when there is a beauty to when I go on TikTok and I see like a 50-year-old man, like who, like there's a guy who I follow. He's a dancer, and he's older. He's Indian. And he like hits it. He's so good. But I'm like, and he like just came out as gay. And I'm like, he looks like he's like liberated and finally being his like truest self. And I'm like, this is amazing. So there are parts of it that I think is so beautiful when you get to see people who like, you see how talented people really are and how creative people really are. And I'm like, that's exciting that people are getting an opportunity to express themselves. So I also don't want to judge it. It's like twofold. It's twofold.
It's twofold.
What I mean? How do you do that and stay authentic and not just become a part of the wheel?
Yeah. Because there's now like doing this is there's an outlet for somewhere for me to just express how I feel.
Yes, and put it up on your YouTube.
Yeah,
and it's almost like you're just creating it and putting out. I think putting it out into the atmosphere without all these expectations is really nice. Yeah, because that's almost what you do when you make a movie.
Yeah,
you get a script, you get these producers who put money in, you get a director, you hire the actors. It's just putting these pieces of a puzzle together. You don't know if it's going to be good. No. You know if it's not going to be good. There's movies with stars in it, and it doesn't sell. It's trash. With stars.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Denzel makes bad movies. Brad makes bad movies. Julia makes bad movies.
Yes.
Candace Maxwell makes great movies. May one day make a bad movie. But you know what I mean? Like, that is the reality of it. And so it's like putting out into the atmosphere without expectations is also really nice. It's just feeling I put my all into this, or you think the movie, like you're like, ooh, this movie, and it ends up being like the best experience. That's another thing. I just did something, and like the experience that I had, like I'm touched to my core, with what just happened, with what I got to like encounter, and the people I got to work with. I'm like this. I don't know if it's gonna be my blockbuster breakout, but wow,
it felt good.
It was really special.
Yeah, and just moving through life with that like feeling of wow, I accomplished this thing, or wow, I'm like one step further into what I said I wanted to do. In enough that it in itself is enough to feel like wow, I can move towards something else. Like it's rewarding. Like that is the reward. To even know that you can do something like this is really rewarding, and share it with people who you want to be around. And like making those like experiences where you get to meet new people, and then you realize, oh, we actually like each other, like this is kind of cool, like and build those relationships. Like
like I'm like genuinely like pleasantly surprised by the group of people that I got to work with. I was like, wow, nice.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
Have you ever felt like in your career a point, I mean, other than like when you were 25 and you were having your midlife crisis, like, or quarter life crisis, being like, yeah, I don't know if I want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
Has that happened to you?
Very strong.
How have you been able to like steer yourself back?
Okay.
Yeah.
So very strong. I had those feelings in the last couple of years, actually.
Yeah.
So transitioning into my 30, I turned 30 during the pandemic. So it was a really interesting time for me, because I had all this pressure on myself about like life, where I should be. And I'm like, but I'm stuck at home in a pandemic. Like I suck. And then, then all these amazing career things started happening. But my personal, a lot of physical things. So like you talk about me being a dancer. I love dancing. I do it for myself. I don't do it publicly much anymore because of like injuries and pain and just things I have to deal with. I don't have the same consistency. I can wake up one morning and just be in a lot of pain.
Yeah.
And it sucks. And I'm like, well, that cuts physical things for the day, So like dealing with health changes over the past couple years has been like a roller coaster for me. And I was like, do I even want to do this anymore?
Yeah.
With I'm working, but it's still a fight. Like it's like auditions are last minute. It can be very chaotic.
Right.
It's almost like I'm working to get to a place in my career where I call it authority.
Okay.
Meaning like I know what I'm doing. My projects are laid out ahead of time and I'm not constantly scrambling. But because as an actor, you're constantly auditioning, you are on this hamster wheel. We talk about the hamster wheel and creating boundaries with that.
Yeah.
That's been a challenge. So I was like, do I want to do this? You work so hard, you get paid this large sum of money, then you got to sit here and organize it. You got to pay this person, this person, this person. You're your own CEO. So that's another thing is, I didn't go to school for business. Ta-da! Guess what? I'm 33 now. So from 30 to 33, I went from an actress, like just an actress, a dancer in New York City, trying to make it, to serious regular, lead in a movie, this. You move to LA, learn how the publicist works, learn how a business works, open a business, figure that out, learning on my own. I don't have a mentor. I don't have somebody who hand feeds me this. This is me learning real life in real time through real experience. Do you know what I mean? I was like, F this. This is hard. I don't want to do this. And I was like, Mom, I'm quitting. I'm done. I'm good.
God said,
JK, because I always get another job. God, I'm like, how do I have another? I turn around and say, I got another job from who? Sometimes, Taylor, the jobs I get that y'all see, I didn't even audition. Meanwhile, I'm out here auditioning and the jobs I get are always an offer.
Yeah. The things that came to you. The things that came to you. So I'm
constantly I'm like, I said, okay, God, because every time I try to leave, something keeps pulling me back. I'm like, wait, what? I'm trying to leave, and you keep trying to bring me into this damn job. I'm like, I will be fine, mama. I will buy a house in Florida. I will live on the beach. I will open a smoothie shop. I'm gonna be happy. Leave me alone. Leave me alone. I've been trying to leave, but I think I really believe in like, you don't have control. And it's one of those things where I'm like, oh, this job really chose me. Yeah. So I'm like, you want me to stay here and you want me to fight because you asked for signs. I'm like, oh, you want me to do this.
Okay.
Got it.
Okay.
But I be wanting to quit, Mom. But when I said, Mom, I'm done, she looked at me and was like, and do what?
Yo, don't we love that? When the parents is like, so what are you actually going to do now?
Poised.
What is your plan? And what's the plan? I just can't do this anymore. Like, that's the plan.
I was like, I don't want to do this. And she was like, but she knows me so well. And she was like, but quit and do what, baby? Because that's like your whole heart. And I was like, yeah. So again, I had to remind myself of why I do this. And a lot of that comes with removing the business and the agents and the managers and this and the that and the ideas of fame and the money. Strip all of that away. Yeah. What do I love to do? And what brings me so much joy? It's music, it's dancing, it's people. The stage is my home. Yeah. So reminding yourself, it will get hard, but the signs are clear on what you should do. Like when it's time to let something go,
let it go.
You know. And another thing my therapist said to me was like, when you know. And I was like, ooh.
Let me tell y'all something. If you are contemplating and you've thought about it and you've been going back and forth about it, about going to therapy, go. Because therapy has also changed my life. I've been in therapy consistently for 2024?
Jeez!
I think I started in 2019. So yeah, and it's very healing. Like I look forward to my therapy sessions. Like I'm like, Saturday's coming up. Yeah. I get to talk to my therapist. But she's also like connected me with other people from my first interview. Elena is like one of my closest friends now, and she's someone who I met through her. Yeah. So things happen for a reason. And I definitely do believe in what you said, like things call you. Even the job that I have now as an event manager, I don't know if I told this story, but I had quit my job without a plan in 2022 in January because I had a moment of like, I can't do this anymore. Like I could do it in terms of I could do the job and I could do the job well, but it wasn't like feeding towards anything in me anymore. And I was like, I don't think this is for me. And I had to tell them, I worked at a school. So the end of the school year it was in June. And I had to tell them in January if I was going to come back for the school year or not. And I made a really tough decision. I was like, I'm not coming back. I had no plan. And I was applying for event jobs, like event manager jobs, which is not an easy career to be in. There are not a lot of jobs out there for that specifically and get paid at the rate that you need to be paid for the work that you do. And in March, I was in my office and I got an email from my first manager at my first events internship when I was 16. And she emailed me and she was like, hey, I had an account manager quit on me mid-event season. Can you start now? And I was like, I've committed to the school year with the children, so I don't want to leave them. And I told her, I was like, I can't start now, but I could start as soon as the school year's over. And I was talking to my mom about how I really wanted to have like a month off from work because I had worked. I mean, I was working in corporate for like 5 years. So like have never really taken more than a week break from anything. And I was like, yeah, I know. I was like, I just want to take a month off. I know this sounds like a dream, but I would really love it. And my mom was like, I don't know how you're going to finesse that, but see if you can make it work with your dates, right? Yes, Mom. So I left. I ended up leaving my job in June. I got a call from her again, and she was like, I'm going to make it work. You can start in August. No, she said, I'm going to make it work. You can start in July. And I was like, okay, that gives me like a few weeks. So you have the whole month of June off? No, like half the month of June, right? Nice. She called me back in May. And she was like, actually, we're not even going to be here. So why don't you just start August 1st? So I ended up getting a month and a half off. But going back to the things that are meant for you, like I would have never been able to do something like that. I love my job now. I love like the team that I'm on. And I feel like I wake up and I don't feel the Sunday scaries. Like I don't have Sunday scaries. Like I don't feel like I need to like prep myself mentally to go to work. I don't have anxiety about going to work. It's a fun place for me to go. And I feel like when you get to the point of like, oh wow, like this is for me, you know it's for you. And when you know things aren't for you, they're not for you.
Yeah.
They're not.
Yeah.
So what would you say to anyone who, I feel like this interview became so many dropped good gems, like this is crazy that I can't even think of one thing, but like for the root of you and who you are, what would you say to someone who is in acting or very in like a creative field and they're struggling to see if, struggling to maintain their authenticity? What would you say you would tell them to do? Like what advice would you give them if they're struggling to maintain their authenticity?
Struggling to maintain authenticity.
Yeah. In their field. Like what like kind of what you said, what brings you back? Like what advice would you give them?
Really to go inward, like to go inward. So whether that means reflecting on why you do what you do, because I think a lot of people forget the why of what they do. So reflecting on your why of what you do and what you want to do with your life and with your work. Struggling with authenticity, because it starts with knowing yourself and also not being afraid to like we all innately have like fears and insecurities. So I think the biggest thing too with authenticity is like breaking through those fears and insecurities. Because that's when you find like your best self, you know, like, and like letting go of shedding, like not being afraid to shed. Like my whole life, I have long, dark, curly hair.
Yeah.
It like became a thing of you're beautiful because of this thing.
Yeah.
And I hate it. I like actually hated it. So I always wanted to like change and do things and like always wanted like just being myself. Like I was told like this is how I'm supposed to be.
Yeah.
And so like shattering the idea of even my mother, who I adore, her idea of who I'm supposed to be, or anybody's idea of who I'm supposed to be. So I think that it's like an inward journey, and then through that you can authentically express yourself.
Yeah, no, I think that's spot on.
I think for me that's my interpretation of it, but everybody has a different one.
No, I think it's like blocking out the haters, blocking out everyone who has something to say about what you're working towards. And people oftentimes say things that are not intentional. Like a lot of it is like deflecting on things that they might be insecure about and putting it on you, and they don't mean to. And like close friends often do that too. Parents do that, and they don't really recognize what they're doing. But I think it's your job to take the grain of salt, look at it, and decide what you want to do with it. And as I'm getting older, I'm realizing that you really just gotta like either chuck it or that's really it. Like I'm just gonna take what you said, but I'm gonna chuck it in my brain.
A grain of salt.
Yeah, seriously.
It's like, okay, thank you. And you may revert to it later. Or you may, because also like you can't see yourself. That's something that somebody told me. You can't see yourself. Other people can observe. You can observe. I can see my hands, but like I can't see me walking around as a being all day, every day. So sometimes people's perceptions obviously is from them, but it's also things to like, I take note. I'm like, okay, that's a note.
Yeah.
And it's not good or bad. That was another thing. Good or bad. Because we're so quickly to put things in categories.
We need to just block down all the boxes. All the titles, all the boxes, just knock them down.
Yeah.
Gonna start fighting them.
Yeah.
So that makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that wraps this up. Yay! This was so much fun. Thank you for joining me and coming on. This was really cool. I'm excited.
Tea time with Taylor.
Yes. You know what's so funny? I might have to start one of those things because I'm always drinking some tea on these things.
Tea time.
Tea time. Always. Dang, that might have to be like a spin-off. This is cool. Thank you so much. This is awesome.